This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors and DM them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate NFL and NBA lineups. The whole purpose of playing daily fantasy sports is to get out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win. So go over to the DFS Doctors. Let them help you. They have analysts on staff that look at the best optimal lineup that you can put out there to win money. So why not take advantage? At the DFS Doctors, promo code Detroit Sports.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome in, everybody. This is DocNJock, episode 332. If you can tell in my voice, I'm super excited. The band is back together. My cousin's not on the telephone. He's not in a different state. He's looking right across from me. And that means DocNJock are back together, full force, here to podcast. We're not letting anybody take over, even though millions of you are trying to get into this game. DocNJock, we're here. We still are here, and we're going to tear shit up. My cousin, Adam, the Jock, Strozynski is back. So you know what that means? Shit's about to get real funky, baby. What up, cuz?
I'm back, bitches. Dude, you know how much I've been looking forward to this exact moment right here. Like, this has been probably 10 days in the making. I've been planning and plotting this moment. You had no idea I was coming into the studio until probably an hour before I showed up. I surprised you. I surprised me. I'm here. I'm pumped. I can't wait to do this podcast. I'm so happy to be back in Michigan, baby.
Why?
Well, we're going to have to save that for February.
Exactly.
You guys are going to want to be on the lookout. I'm thinking, kind of looking at the calendar, I'm thinking probably late January, early February, we will have a very special podcast where I get to explain a whole lot of everything, and it'll be interesting. It'll be my therapy session, if you will.
It'll be cathartic. Look, man, if you're a fan of wrestling, you know about the AOP. We're the original AOP. Assholes of podcasting, baby.
Right.
Let's let it rip. We say whatever we want. We've always said what we want, and we don't care. When we walk into rooms after we've tweeted a bunch of nasty shit, people are looking at you, and you're like, yeah, what are you looking at? I'm just a guy that started a podcast, and I cover sports, and I absolutely love it. And the guy across from me is the guy that helped me along the way. We co-founded this thing together, and now that he's back, it just feels right. It feels like, okay, now we're going to talk sports. Now we're going to tell all of you about why the Detroit Lions are a disaster, why Michigan season was a disaster, why Michigan State going to New York is an utter disaster, why the Pistons, Wings should probably just fold and play in a different arena. And there's nobody else I want to complain about Detroit sports with than my cousin, and it's all good, man. And I can't wait to now share what it's like for his cousin to go into a locker room and to hear nonsense day in and day out. And I can share that with him, so it's gonna be a good time. And look, the podcast that we did over the phone were good, but nothing replicates what we got, especially since we've done 300 podcasts together. This will be fun. And look, given the circumstances, I'm excited that we're going to have this opportunity now in the coming new year to start 2020, a new decade. We're going to start another
New
decade
decade
of this shit, right?
Hey, you know what?
Because I want to tell you something, though, before you say something.
Okay.
Dude, you've been living in the gym. You look swole, motherfucker.
Do I? I feel kind of fat, man.
Really?
I do, yeah. I don't feel...
You don't feel swole?
No, like, I really, and truly, like, body-wise, I don't feel good at all. But I appreciate that. Thanks, man. I really do. I actually skipped my morning gym session today. I just said, screw that, and I slept in. But I did want to pick your brain on this a little bit. You've been in the Lions locker room quite a bit now, and the locker room's an interesting place. Generally, guys walk around with no towels on. How many of those big old dongs have you seen?
3.
Athletes got big wieners, huh?
I was like, I remember distinctly, I texted Adam, I'm like, damn, Marvin Jones doesn't care. He's impressed. He just walks out, and I was like, God damn. So, no, you try your best to look away because you don't want to be that guy looking at him when he's doing that. Yeah.
You always keep your eyes pointed to the ceiling.
Keep your eye, just turn your head and look around. But it is a weird vibe, too, because you got to just drop your drawers. Most of the guys, I think, go into the shower and take care of that, and they come out in their towels and stuff, but they have to change, and so...
Some of them just don't care. But there'll be female reporters. They just don't care.
No, the first couple times in the locker room were definitely awkward for me because you just don't feel like you belong. But then once I did some studying, I watched film. I went up to Tracy Walker was one of the first people I spoke to. The first person I went up to, I told that story online and on the podcast, was Zach Zenner the day he got cut. Mm-hmm. I talked to him, and 3 hours later he's cut. And I'm like, shit, the DSP curse lives. And I think he probably knew based on the tone and the manner in which he talked to me. It felt like he maybe knew. And I asked him specifically, how do you feel about competing for a running back spot with a crowded room? And he just was the kind of stiff a little bit. So he was real serious. But then once the recorder was off, everyone kind of lightens up when the recorder's off, but you can tell the difference. But there's a couple guys, and unfortunately it's the young guys who don't have a lot of experience. They talk a lot, and it's good because they don't make a lot of noise. They don't say a lot of things, but they give you a little insight into like, hey, we're studying, we're trying to do this, and they're more available. Whereas the vets, like Danny Amendola, straight-laced, just gives you the pro answer.
Company man.
You can't write that. You can't quote that. Yeah. You just want, and see, there's a fine line because you want people to be quotable, but you also understand that you can't have too many Darius Slays around. And we were talking before we started and hit the record button. Mm-hmm. Darius Slay is great for business. And I've tweeted you that now 6 times because each and every time he stands in front of that scrum there for the media, quote after quote, you could do, literally I had done 2 stories about Slay that day on Monday, and then he came up to the, people were approaching him, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And obviously you ask him about the season, what do you think about Patricia? What do you think about the noise? Justin Rose asked him that question specifically. I had asked him, do you think if Patricia's comebacks next year, if he does indeed is the head coach of the team, do you think that you guys can meet some goals in terms of wins? He's like, yeah, I think that he gave me the standard answer there. And it was a fair answer. He's, obviously said it quite a bit in that he has said, look, losing is, something that happens, but I'm blessed. He's humble. He keeps it real. And what happens is, he just doesn't let it bother him. There's some guys that are real serious. They sit in their locker room. They're reflecting. They look like they're really bothered by the losing. Darius Slay, the day after a loss, he's jovial. We'll joke around. We'll talk about video games. And the answer that he gave about, tuning out noise was classic. If you've seen it or if you have not seen it, go to @Detroit Podcast. You'll see the video. I shot it on my new iPhone 11 there, which I'm like, yes, I love the new phone. I shot it. And he says, and quite frankly, right into the camera, and everyone's watching. This is not just like on the side with media journalists, not with the writers. This is with everybody watching. He's like, no, it's no problem at all. I can tune out all the noise. Payday's on Thursday. And he's like, I got to check that. I check that every Thursday, and life is good. And then some of the media were like, wow, like they started getting curious and started to ask. And then a writer found out, based on his salary, every Thursday when he goes to his direct deposit to look in the bank, $740K rolls up in his bank account. So you and I were saying, and I feel the same way in that once in our lifetime, we want to do that. Just stand in front of people and be like, do I have a problem? I'm rich. No, I don't got a problem, right? We all want to do that once, okay, to fill our egos. But in the grand scheme of things, I think that comment was probably one of the, because he told what day they get paid, how they get paid. I feel like in the culture that Patricia and Quinn are trying to establish, I just don't think that a guy like Darius Slay fits what they're trying to do. But the problem is he's got enough talent that they can overlook it. But the problem is he says a lot and he's open to say whatever. Like he doesn't toe the company line. He kind of walks up to it and maybe crosses over it like an inch. But at the same time, he knows he's got talent. I think he knows. At the same time, when you're Darius Slay, you've been on the Lions and the team sucks and you've been on a losing team year after year after year, you basically don't care if you get fired in a sense because you know you're texting Quandre Diggs and he's like, bro,
It's so much better over
this
here.
is better. Life is good at 10-2 or 10-3 as opposed to that shit. I'm sure Quandre, I'm sure Kyle Van Noy, anybody that he maintains a relationship with is like, bro, the Lions are fucking whack.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing there. And they have to. And if I'm Darius Slay, if I'm Matthew Stafford, and you've been in this culture for 10 years, why stay? Is that check, eventually speaking, you just, I think, become numb to it. I don't see why he would say that, especially.
Oh, I totally see why he would
Why does he
say
keep saying
that.
He said it before early in the
Yeah.
season. Why does he keep saying it?
Because he believes that. Like, he's okay.
It's all good, I'm rich?
He's okay with losing because he's paid. And you have to realize, you said it perfectly. He is talented enough to not give a shit, right? He's so good that he knows, go ahead, cut me, let me go. Send me some, trade me, please trade me. Trade me somewhere that they want me and that they're going to appreciate my talent and let me go do my thing. I talk to Quandre all the time. Quandre's happy as a clam. He's out there in Seattle killing it right now. And you know what? He's getting paid. Pay me my money and send me someplace else. Please, please, I don't care. He gets it, man. Like, he understands it. It is such a shit show with the Detroit Lions that the only solitude you have is that massive paycheck that comes in this case, every single Thursday. You know, for 17 weeks, this guy's cashing a check that is damn near $740,000. That's the only thing that brings you solace because you have to deal with complete and utter ridiculousness. Whether it be your head coach talking out of his ass, whether it be your general manager not being able to figure out a draft, or you have a quarterback who has a fractured spine and is playing in a losing season and is still like, yeah, I'm going to get out there at some point in one of these final 3 games. Like, bro, just sit down and shut up. It's going to be okay. Like, at this point, you all just need to lose the rest of these games and just pack it in, and hopefully Quinn can nail a couple draft picks. Honestly, either that or just trade back and scoop up as many pieces as possible because this team isn't good enough. He gets it, man. He's one of the few dudes on this team who totally understands it. It's all about fuck you, pay me, right? That's what it is. That's what it comes down to. It's fuck you, pay me, all right? I'm out here putting my body on the line every single week, all right? I've got guys coming after me, headhunting me. You need to pay me. And you know what? If you don't like me talking, cool, trade me. Somebody else, because I'm good enough, I'm talented enough that I will get picked up in a heartbeat and I will be put on a winner or a team that can figure it out and will put pieces around me, or I can at least go there and help them win something and not be in this perpetual state of loserdom that the Detroit Lions find themselves in every single freaking year. He just gets it, dude. That's what it comes down to.
What a season 2019 has been. My first year, I think I've seen 1 home win and now 3 wins total, 2 home wins, the Giants and the Chargers. That's it. And the rest of the time has been guys in the locker room just quickly trying to scurry out of there, and it's just a somber mood. It hasn't been like down, like tense.
Dude, it is rough, isn't it? Covering a team that is on a losing skid like this. It is tough.
Yeah, because of the fact that you get into that locker room that Monday and nobody's there. You're like, oh, there's nobody here. You got 45 minutes to kill. So it's a tough time. Friday's the best day, in my opinion, to go because they're all there and everybody's handling their business and stuff like that. So Friday is an amazing day to go. That's why one of those days definitely I make to go out there is Friday. So with the Lions, it's been a fascinating look because Stafford got hurt. A lot of the players are hurt. The season went down. It nosedived. You're not going to meet any of your goals. And so, see, for me, it's a little different in that once Stafford got hurt, once Quandre was traded, it signaled to me that the season was done.
Yeah, it was a white flag.
It was a white flag. So I'm not mad, but I understand people's frustration because Matt Patricia's job is to be a defensive genius, okay? And when you allow quarterbacks that aren't really known as stellar, Mitchell Trubisky obviously has played better of late, but prior, he wasn't lining it up. Haskins for the Redskins wasn't lining it up. And you see this defense that I think, by and large, the fans don't like. We all remember because I was at the bar. It was the Patriots and the Eagles. And you're like, dude, this doesn't look like the Patriots. The Eagles are running all over the place, and they're scoring at a clip that's like, what the heck's going on? It was a game that was fascinating. I still have the notes on my desk there because it was one of those games where I was trying to pay attention, and one of the things I wrote was, I don't like this defense. The Patriots succumbed to a trick play, and then you got Matt Patricia now as the head coach. You would think that the relationship that he'd have with Bob Quinn would be better in terms of bringing in talent. You trade Quandre Diggs, which surprised and shocked many, and then he goes to Seattle and balls out, which indicates that I think a question maybe I will ask Bob Quinn if I get a chance to is the system and philosophy here too rigid? Because of the fact that you got Kyle Van Noy, you got Quandre Diggs, you got other players that have left, Laken Tomlinson, others that have left the Lions and then played better. Why is that happening? Why can't you make, a statement with Quandre Diggs by sitting him? You don't have to trade him. If you don't like him, you don't like the fact that he's speaking out, you pull him aside and say, hey, this is the culture we're running. If you want to be part of it, then slow it down a little bit and then sit him. You don't have to trade him. You don't have to take such a drastic measure because once that happened, then once Stafford goes down, for me, it just equated to this is going to be a bunch of losses. And so for me, I sit here and sometimes I do think that we're overanalyzing it. I really do think the Lions are tanking without saying they're tanking. Once Stafford went down, it doesn't look like to me the Lions have been balling out to win. They recognize, you know what, we've traded Quandre. We have this opportunity now with Stafford being hurt. It's unfortunate. Everything's on board. Mm-hmm. Patricia and Quinn are not getting fired. They're going to be here year 3. And now you have the model. Basically, I know that people are pissed. We're going to talk about it regarding Chris Spielman. And I don't think that he's just haphazardly saying San Francisco. Remember, this guy's part of the organization. Mm-hmm. He's not like getting paid directly, but he's got a relationship with DetroitLions.com. He does hits for them. And all of a sudden, he starts saying San Francisco. I'm one of those guys that's just like, if it's staring you right in the face, believe it. He's saying it because that's what the plan is. They all know what's going on. And I don't think this is a secret. The Lions are tanking without technically tanking. They're going to get a top 5 pick. They're very happy about that. The problem is when you sell that, or if you discuss that, it's not a good look. And second, the defense is playing really bad. And third, there is so much skepticism regarding Bob Quinn's ability to take someone at that spot that everybody and their mama is going to make tight end jokes. And I think there might be a chance where he shocks everybody, maybe even takes a quarterback. With a defense that's struggling that bad, he may go offense. He may just, act like, yeah, we're tanking, but we got a talented individual. That's the problem, is that the draft strategy that Quinn has brought to the table in these last 3 years doesn't make sense in terms of a win-now strategy.
It's not just his draft, though. It's also what he does in free agency. I mean...
Rick Wagner stealing.
Right. So you got Ricky Wagner. You've got Trey Flowers. Like, Trey Flowers has played better as the season has gone on, but Trey Flowers was brought in and was paid very handsomely to be a stud. And really and truly, he's a guy who looks like you have to pair somebody with him. Like, he needs another guy opposite of him. So whether that would have been Ziggy Ansah, if Ziggy Ansah would have been here, or if that would have been, I don't know, insert somebody, Ed Oliver. Let's go Ed Oliver, or let's even go. They got lucky enough to draft Josh Allen, right? Because the Jags didn't pick him up. He needs an impactful player on the side of him, and this dude's making
tight end
$90 million.
Yeah,
like it's absolutely insane. Look, what Bob Quinn has done in the draft and what he has done with free agency,
not good enough.
No, absolutely not. It leads you to scratch your head and say, what the hell's going on here? And I get why there's an outcry, why people want them fired. It makes total sense. I mean, it just hasn't been good enough.
But I have a question, though, and here's the part that just, I understand the fans' angst and their frustration, their lack of patience, okay? But if you just remove opinion and all the anger that you felt for the last 20 years, if you just look at this one fact, you take Stafford off this team, you expect wins? I mean, why are people mad?
No. Absolutely not.
Stafford's gone, losing season automatically. I mean, we said it.
We talked about it 14 weeks ago.
If Stafford's done, the season's over. Then that you should go into that mode. And I think the problem is, though.
But that being said, right? That falls back onto Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia.
Should they have said it? Like, hey,
no, they should have helped insulate themselves and went out there and got a backup quarterback who could help you win games.
But you're not trying to win
right now.
As an organization, you say, "Oh, Stafford's down. It sucks."
So going into this year, they were like, "Cool, we're gonna tank."
No. The idea is that you thought that potentially, okay, Stafford's gonna, be there most of the time. You got these backups that are available, but you kind of going into it go, okay, we're going to reshape this team. If we go 6-7 wins, it's not that bad. We're going to try and build this team. And now once Stafford, because remember too, there was probably reports, in training camp that something's off, that he probably was a hit away. Mm-hmm. So Bob Quinn has to know that. So he's probably like, okay, and you sit around in a meeting, if he goes down, they probably sit around and go, it won't be that bad. We'll lose every game, and we'll get a top 5 pick, and we could sell that because you also got to keep your job. And I think they told that to Martha. I don't think this is all haphazard and they just don't talk about it. They talk about everything. And I believe that they said, you know what? If for some reason Stafford doesn't, make it through this season, it's not all that bad because we'll draft and we can add to this team and make it a lot better.
Well, let me ask you this, all right? I want you to put your Bob Quinn
I think they're rebuilding without saying they're rebuilding, and they're tanking without. They are retooling this team.
I think it
Quandre,
has become
Darius,
blatantly obvious.
Yeah,
they want no yes, or they want nobody with an opinion. They only want yes men, right?
Yes.
So Quandre Diggs, very outspoken, did not like Matt Patricia's scheme. Right. You have Darius Slay. Don't be surprised if he's not here next year.
I don't think so either,
because he's another guy who was very outspoken.
Trade him for a second or a third.
Yes. So expect him to be gone as well. All right.
And Marvin Jones too, older vet, making a ton of money.
Yep. Expect him to be gone as well. No, they are absolutely retooling and rebuilding this thing
with $40 million to play with.
But this is the thing, right? Going into next year, they're probably going to have a top 5 draft pick, maybe a top 3. If everything works out well, it might be a top 1 or 2 pick. Okay, so what do you invest that in?
Defense.
If you're Bob Quinn, so you're going defense.
Chase Young, you find a way to get Chase Young on this team, pair him with Trey Flowers. Now you can retool and play a lot better.
So at what point are you drafting your quarterback? Because obviously you're going to need a quarterback. I mean, and look, you don't necessarily need to get a quarterback. It doesn't have to be a franchise quarterback early in the draft. You can find a guy later. It happens. And you're not necessarily going to get Tom Brady in the 6th round. Understand that. But you can find guys later. I mean, Pat Mahomes was later in the 1st round, right?
Brian Lewerke, baby.
No.
Not Brian Lewerke?
No.
Shea Patterson?
No.
Is Shea Patterson the next Tom Brady?
No.
Shea Patterson in the 6th round?
And no, and no, and no. This draft was supposed to be super QB heavy, and I haven't really seen the talent from the quarterbacks. Like, it'll all change once the combine gets unfolded and you get to see the underwear Olympics, but I haven't really been impressed by any of the quarterbacks this year. Like, Burrows from LSU looks decent enough, right? But this is really and truly his first year doing it all. So is this one of those things where it's kind of a flash in the pan, or can he do some things? On top of all of that, you put a tweet out a little bit ago about them not drafting Lamar Jackson, right?
Oh,
so
you can't miss on that.
No, you can't. But here's the thing: if Lamar Jackson came to this team,
he'd be Jeff Driscoll,
right? Well, is this team smart enough to realize what they have to do to, 1, protect him from his own weaknesses, and 2, be able to build around him to help elevate him and take advantage of his strengths? And I don't think they are. I don't think they're flexible enough in their mindset to be able to do something like that. This team is so rigid. You brought up rigidness with the defense, right? This team is so rigid in their mindset with the way they do things. It has to be X, Y, and Z. Everything is black and white. There are no shades of gray with this team, and that's a problem. That becomes a monster problem, especially, like, you mean to tell me you're Bob Quinn, you can't see shades of gray? Like, everything is black and white. It's either this or it's that. No, man. Like there are other guys that can do other things. You just have to build your team a certain way. Yet you're so cemented in a way of thinking that it hurts you and it hinders you.
It doesn't seem, and because Patricia said it, he's like, I can play any scheme I want. He knows it all. So why is it that, obviously, I don't know if it's an indirect way of saying that they can't pressure the quarterback, or that the talent that they have just can't execute it, that this is why, and he believes that this is the best way to win is to allow a bunch of yards. But you also look at it and you say, well, First go around
Bro, I would love
against
to see an
Minnesota.
all-out blitz just once.
Yeah.
Just send the whole house. Just one time. I don't know if he has that in his playbook.
No, he does.
Are you sure?
Have
you seen it?
Yes, it's there. Jared Davis gets there once when he does.
I mean,
blitz.
honestly, dude, he normally shows 4 guys and he sends 4 guys.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll show 3 guys and he'll send 3 guys. Like, change it up, bro. It's okay. You can send a linebacker. You can stack the line and send 6 guys if you really wanted to.
The first move he's got to make, he's got to sit down as his mentor, Paul, and say, look, thank you so much.
Bro,
I'm
he's
forever
gotta
grateful.
go.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. I'm grateful.
You and I both believe that he has zero say in what that defense does, right?
No, he makes calls. He's part of it, but it's the same call. I mean, literally, they appear, based on what they're saying, to have the same ideas. And the idea is this, is that Paul Pasqualoni at
We're
times...
of one mind.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. Just like in football, you're a couple key critical plays away from winning, and at the same time, what happens is that in those critical moments, they don't send anybody, and the quarterbacks can just sit there and take all day long and pick you apart. And we've looked at it all over the place and say, look, you can't give any quarterback 4 seconds. You and I could have 5 seconds, and we'll find an open guy to check it down to. Anybody. So
I can hardly throw a football. My shoulder's so banged up.
And so now, as a result of the season, everybody's speculating what's going to happen with Quinn and Patricia. Look, guys, just listen to us. They're coming back, okay? The Lions are not going to just give away all that free money. Remember, we told you this. They tied Stafford, Patricia, and Quinn's contract all together.
Yep.
So you think they're going to give all those guys a bunch of free money to walk away? Morningweg didn't get it, but he was terrible. And he didn't have his general manager there, his boy there. So you look at it and you say, if you make the move to fire Matt Patricia, Quinn's gone. And you're talking about starting at 0-0. And that's not going to happen. I just don't think that with Matthew Stafford, you start at 0-0. So Chris Spielman on television came out and said, be patient, guys. And all hell broke loose. They're like, what are you talking about, rebuild? You know, Bob Quinn's a victim of his own words. He said, I came in here. And see, that's the problem when people look at and they hyper-focus on a phrase. Obviously, Quinn and Patricia's main goal is to build a winner and to have perennial success like the New England Patriots. That's what they want. And yes, it's going to take time. Nobody thought it would take 2 years. But you would think then that when you have that introductory press conference and you let go of Jim Caldwell, you just say, look, Jim Caldwell got us to a certain spot. We're going to build this from the bottom up. You have to say that. You kind of have to say, look, we're going to strip this thing down. We're going to look at everything from the kitchen staff to, the office staff to every single player. We're going to evaluate this, and this is going to be a 5-year plan. He should have said 5-year plan, literally like 100 times so that they could replace it instead of everyone saying 9-7 is not good enough. So everyone's gravitated toward that, and he's going to have to answer for that.
All right, but here, let me ask you this, right?
Because and two, the problem is that mindset too, I think, is probably the wrong one if they really thought they were actually going to rebuild as a secret.
Yeah.
Because the team was decent. I think another coach would come in.
That's where I wanted to go. So
this team's not bad. You could get in the playoffs with this team.
So 9-7, coming off of a season the year prior where you made the playoffs. You mean to tell me that this team was in such disarray that you had to basically scrap it down to the bare bones and then rebuild it?
He would tell you to win the Super Bowl, yes. And so we're
starting. But you can't retool on the fly? I mean, essentially right now, you're retooling on the fly. Right. That's where we're at right now.
That's a great point, and that's probably the point that everyone's going to look to when he does speak, which is you can't bring in more talent, and you can't miss on talent that's out there.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where the delicacy in the job is that people want him to retool on the fly and still win. You can't win less games than you did before, but at the same time, he should just come out there and say, look, when you lose a franchise quarterback, it's just going to always be an uphill battle. Matthew Stafford is a big part of our team, and at that point in time, things change in this league week to week, and unfortunately, that's what he should say. He should say Stafford 100 times, and I think that will really help if he says Stafford went down and everything changed in our situation, and I still believe in Matt Patricia is what he should say.
Okay, so
he should say Stafford 100 times.
You're absolutely right.
Stafford went down, and when you don't have your franchise quarterback, anybody's going to struggle to win.
Right.
And then the smart media is going to say, well, what about the Saints? What about what's going on with the Titans? What about those quarterbacks? Well, those guys were, a little bit further along. He'll spin it all in that way. But yes, I think the biggest thing is
in their process. They've got guys who can kind of carry that load.
This is the question: can you retool on the fly and still win? Mm-hmm. With Matt Patricia, no. And at the end of the day, the biggest question mark that people are going to have is Matt Patricia's scheme good enough? And right now, we're not seeing what
it's an overwhelming no right now.
What do you make of Chris Spielman trying to say to everyone, patience, y'all. Just relax. Give them a year. Give them another year. Look at the 49ers. They are looking like the Lions are looking exactly like the 49ers did last year when Garoppolo got hurt. They, stunk it up in 2018, and look at them in 2019. So if you say that, then I'm expecting 11-2 next year. Fuck that. Then if you got Stafford in a top 5 pick, I'm expecting 11-2. If that's what Chris Spielman's spitting out there, then I'm going to start raising my expectations. You got a franchise quarterback. You got a top 5 pick. You got a general manager and a head coach 3 years together. I want 11-2.
Here's the thing, right?
If you want to compare yourself to the 49ers,
what is
you could have had Kittle.
This is where I'm going. I'm glad you're already there. So, what is Bob Quinn's best draft pick later in the NFL draft? Who is it? Who's his best draft pick? It is hands down Kenny Golladay, and it is Kenny Golladay in the 3rd round. So you mean to tell me your best draft pick that you have is a 3rd round pick? Like, that's not good enough. Kittle was taken in the 5th round. Like you go up and down San Francisco's roster. There are guys that John Lynch got late in the draft, or he's gone out and got guys through free agency that are making an impact on this roster every single day. He had enough foresight to go out there and trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And lucky enough that Bill Belichick loved Jimmy G enough to trade him to a situation where he was like, cool, they have enough talent. I can see this working out. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to insulate you. We're going to send you here. I'm going to take a little bit of a loss because if you remember, it sounded like there were teams that were offering farms for Jimmy Garoppolo. And Bill Belichick was like, no, we will take a sack of potatoes. I think San Francisco ended up giving I think it was like a 2nd and a 5th round pick. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. But either way, they have hit in their draft, right? They have hit up and down in their draft. And they have gone out and gotten guys that contribute and make an impact every single down. Bob Quinn hasn't done that. That's kind of where I'm at. So when Chris Spielman says, got to give these guys one more year. They need one more year. But why? Tell me why. Tell me what proof you have that equates me giving both of these guys one more year. Because what Bob Quinn has showed me in, 4 drafts now? Not good enough. What Matt Patricia has shown me in almost 2 years of being a head coach, it sure as hell isn't good enough. All I've seen Matt Patricia do is alienate the best players in his locker room, put them up on pedestals and made them look like pariahs. The only thing Bob Quinn has done is take those pariahs and trade them for jock straps and deflated balls. That's it. You guys haven't gotten anything, and you haven't done anything. So why? Why would I give these guys one more year? Just because they generally say, as a rule of thumb, a head coach needs 3 years? Is that why? Is that what we're talking about here? That doesn't fly for me. That doesn't work for me. You've done nothing. You have instilled zero confidence in me. You have instilled zero confidence in a fan base. You have instilled zero confidence in a press room that you attend and that you sit in and that you write in. You have instilled zero confidence in your abilities as either a general manager or a head coach or somebody who runs this organization to be able to get it right this following year. So why would I give you one more year? It doesn't make sense to me. There are head coaches out there who could come in. I mean, let me ask you this. The hot name floating around right now, Urban Meyer.
Oh.
Would you bring Urban Meyer in here to be a head coach?
No.
I can tell you this much.
One name. I got one name.
Urban Meyer is a head coach who recognizes talent, and he has no problem protecting that talent and getting the absolute most out of it. Urban Meyer, I feel, would be a home run.
I want Urban Meyer to coach Michigan State. Now, I'm all for it. I'm all down to go down that road.
Do.
But the name, if they do make
Do you realize Laken Tomlinson is
on
the starting guard for the 49ers? Do you get that?
Yeah.
Like, let that sink in. This was he a first-round pick? He was a first-round pick, wasn't he? Or was he a second-round pick?
He was high up there. He's a first-round pick, I believe.
This guy was drafted by your Detroit Lions, and yet they couldn't figure out how to make him work. This was a guy who incredibly intelligent. Remember, I think he wanted to be a doctor, or he wanted to be a dentist, or he wanted
Riley Reef, same thing in Minnesota.
Look at that. And yet you can't make these guys work, but they can go to other teams, and all of a sudden they become Pro Bowl players.
You bring in TJ Lang, and he bombs out. You bring in Rick Wagner, he's stealing, and you could have had Warford and Riley Reef and fit them into the scheme and make it happen.
He was a first-round pick in 2015, pick 28.
Yeah. Late in the first round.
Bro, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable mitigated
Duke,
disaster.
and I think he wanted to be a doctor is what he wanted. He wanted to be a brain surgeon is what I think it was.
Yeah, no, it's just with the Lions, it does appear to be this whole smartest guy in the room situation. They're not doing a good enough job of, explaining what their plan is. And that's the toughest thing is that, if you're in a win now mode, you don't take a tight end, you don't trade off Quandre Diggs. And at the same time, I think, it's kind of interesting. And I really... if you really want to be on the mark, I just think you just got to don't believe what they're telling you and just look at the obvious. Chris Spielman saying it's a process. They're cutting away players that they don't want to be part of the system anymore. They're willing to move on from the non-Patricia Quinn guys. So it's a rebuild. It's a teardown. They're tearing it down, and they're trying to build through the draft. And once Stafford got hurt, it opened the door for them to say, hey, we're not going to win. This is what we're going to do. We're not going to tell you that. We're just going to keep saying the same thing over and over, which is the code word is, which was so fascinating because literally, when the Patriots started losing, that's what Belichick would start to say. Hey, give credit to the opponent. We played tough, and we're working hard trying to get better. That's all they're saying. And but at the same time, I believe as a Lions fan, to be the most educated, just trust what you're seeing. What you're seeing is a team that's tanking, and they're not going to ever come out and say it. They're tanking, and they're going to want you to trust them to go out there and find a way to get the best player. Now, here's where we're at. The Lions got to lose out. And here's another point of contention with all the fans and anybody that's watching it. Stafford's not on IR. That's another body you could have out there. You've IR'd everybody. Marvin Hall, big play Marvin Hall, IR'd. Marvin Jones, IR'd.
Can you tell me how Marvin Jones and Marvin Hall are on the IR, but Matt Stafford, who has a fractured back?
Out of respect for him, who cares? Just sit down, Matthew. Look, we're going to get Chase Young. We're not drafting your replacement. You just rest for a year almost. Sit down. And out of respect for him, what does that mean? You're going to trot him out there against Green Bay in a meaningless series? That's ridiculous. Sit him down and put him on IR. Show some gumption. Show some hey, Matthew Stafford's not bigger than the organization. I know that you want to show him respect, but it's just a situation where you need bodies. You need someone in there that can actually help you on defense. So for me, the three things that I want to see, late in the year, lost to Tampa, lost to the Broncos, lost to Green Bay, and just lose out. Secure the number 2-3 pick, and then find your strategy to get Chase Young in here. He's the guy. He's the unmitigated, obviously generational talent that can come in here alongside Trey Flowers, and you can probably, for the next 5 years, make some noise. And I think you got to try to do anything you can to lose. And then, at the same time, you want to try your absolute best to see about some of the young cats. Our Warrior you want to see, Will Harris, you want to see if Tracy Walker can be a guy that you can maybe potentially give some more control to in that defense. You want to see about Jelani Tavai. You want to see if Jared Davis is actually someone you can keep. Taylor Decker, Glasgow. You wanted to see about a couple guys. And then, you just want to kind of get through this season without anybody tearing their ACL. Kind of just nobody that's prominent that you want to feature in the coming years. You want no more real injuries. I think that if anybody kind of goes down, they're just pretty much going to rest anybody of prominence. And for me, I just want to see losses. I want to see epic losses. And I just want to see the Detroit Lions end this year with 3 wins, secure the 2 or 3 pick, and put yourself in that right position. Then we can start really talking and digging into what we all want to see. Pick the best defender that's out there. Find a way to get him. Or shock the world and tell everybody that we're serious and draft the quarterback. You either draft the defender or you draft the quarterback, period. You move up, number 2, you get Joe Burrow, or you make that move and you say, we're going to give away 2 number 1s and we're getting Joe Burrow and Stafford. Tick-tock, baby. Show your hand and get that clock ticking on his ass. Because in my opinion, if they did that, if they drafted the quarterback, in my mind, if they did that, I probably would recant my famous headline there of the impeachment trials. I would say, you know what, sorry, because I did say I would show support to Bob Quinn for some of the moves he made, but in terms of losing to Washington, that was kind of a little bit of a, you can't lose to Washington. You can lose, but you can't lose to Washington. You can't lose to them. They're garbage. At the end of the day, though, overall, nobody's happy with the 4-year tenure of Bob Quinn. Nobody's happy with the 2-year tenure of Matt Patricia. And what's causing all this angst among everybody is the fact that we have to bring I'm 40 years old. We haven't seen shit in 40 years.
No, you're right, man.
You're 36. You haven't seen shit in 36 years. how long is this going to go on? I can't wait to see, though. And the other thing is I want to see on Sunday, I wonder if all those sell the team T-shirts are going to start showing up.
I hope so.
I don't know if they can let them in there. That'd be great, huh?
And here's the thing. It's not even Martha, right? Martha's not even the problem. I mean, it's the fact that she has these people in power. If you take a deep look at this team, right, and something I want to see as this season kind of winds down is the moment Kerryon Johnson is healthy enough to go back out there, I need to see him actually become a legitimate running back because I have zero confidence in his ability. Like he is constantly injured. He is always there. He puts this team behind the eight ball. If you want to compare this team to the San Francisco 49ers, do you realize that both starting running backs for the 49ers were undrafted guys? Wow. Matt Breida and Raheem Mostler or whatever it is. I don't even care. You realize both these guys were undrafted. Like they went out and they were like, hey, scrap heap, let's grab those two dudes and let's see what they can do. And next thing you know, you plug these guys in and they can do things. You need a running back. You need to retool that offensive line, which has had a ton of draft picks and a ton of free agent dollars invested in it, and you've gotten nothing on your return. You need to retool that defensive line. It's got more free agent dollars. You need to figure out what's going on with your safety or with your linebacking core because I have no idea what Jared Davis is. Is he a guy who's going to roughly play 30 snaps a game, maybe 40 on a good heavy day? Is he an every down linebacker? What is he? Nobody really knows. And then we're talking about trading away arguably the best player on your defense in Darius Slay. So now your secondary has all of a sudden become a ginormous weakness for this team because you don't have Quandre Diggs. Darius Slay's got a foot out the door. You got a whole bunch of other guys that are just pieces that you're just kind of plugging in and hoping that they play. It's a total mess. It is like you can't fix this with next year's draft. You can't fix this with next year's free agent class. You just can't. You don't have enough pieces. So I need them to lose out. I need to see what I have in Kerryon Johnson. I need to see what I have with these backup quarterbacks because I'm with you, right? At some point, they have to go out there and they have to draft their quarterback of the future. But you are vacant in so many different departments of this football team, whether it be the offensive line, the defensive line, the linebacking core, the running backs, the wide receivers, the secondary. We haven't even talked about special teams. You are so vacant in so many different areas on this team that investing in a quarterback when you could go out and invest in a player who can help fill a hole might be neglecting a monster move because if you're going to draft your quarterback for next year, you're going to get no production out of him next year because Stafford's going to come in and play. So if you can get something out of, I don't know, whoever, David Blau or Jeff Driscoll, whoever, if you can get some production out of one of these guys, you're like, okay, cool. There's enough there that if Stafford was to die on the field next year, we can plug them in and we're going to win a couple games. Don't have to win all the games, just got to win a couple. If you can sell me that, Stafford dies at the 50 because Chase Young ends up hitting him and his spleen flies out of his back with his kidneys and he's just there. It looks like Mortal Kombat in the middle of Fierce Bubble's head right there in the middle of Ford Field, that you can plug one of these dudes in and they're going to give you some production that will be moderate enough to help you eke out a W here and there. I'm okay with that. And I need to see that coming down the stretch. I need to see what I have on this team. I need depth guys to go out there and show me that they deserve to be on this roster because right now, the way I'm looking at it, you've got to rebuild an entire football team. And you just don't have the pieces. You don't have the money, and you don't have the ability to do it all in one offseason. It's just not there. You have screwed the pooch the last 2 years, and now it's all coming back to bite you in the ass.
Ooh, that was a lot. That was a good segment, man. Talking Lions is always a challenge because you know what they should do. They should always go, make the right call, and then they just always end up making a call that leaves you scratching your head. You know what I mean?
Or your ass.
Why couldn't they go out and get
my butt.
Why couldn't they get Ryan Tannehill just to go out there and handle business, right? He's leading the Titans.
Yes.
What goes on there? How's that work?
Absolutely insane, right? It's nuts.
Look, our job's not to go out there and pick Lamar Jackson. That's Bob Quinn's job. Yep. To make you a championship team, you got to go out there and get Lamar Jackson. You got to go out there and find the diamonds in the rough. And what you're doing is you're bringing in a bunch of okay talent, but you're not bringing in enough top end talent, and that's Bob Quinn's job. He's gonna get probably one more year, and that's about it. And if they don't make the postseason next year, it's a wrap. That's it. It's done.
Yeah.
Next year, it's playoff or bust, right?
Absolutely. It has to be, right?
Playoff or bust or get the heck out of Dodge. Oh, man, cuz great segment. Unfortunately, we got to keep the football talk going in the second half of the podcast. We're going to talk about Michigan's end to the season, Michigan State, and what we make of their ends of the season. And I think we're going to have strong opinions as well regarding the Wolverines and the Spartans. But we're going to take a quick time out, show love to our sponsors, and come back and finish the podcast talking about college football. The reason why Adam and I are able to keep the lights on, the studio mics hot here in our Sterling Heights studio is because we got great sponsors. And DocNJock is sponsored by 3 amazing sponsors this episode. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're looking for quality, brand name new, and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. So today, head on over to MotorCityPawnbrokers.com for all information regarding the Motor City Pawnbrokers. They've been a great sponsor for a long time now, and Mark and the crew, they're dedicated to providing great customer service. Today, head on over to MotorCityPawnbrokers.com for all information regarding deals and all the happenings that you can take advantage of at the Motor City Pawnbrokers. If you've agreed or disagreed with anything at all that we've said on this podcast, head on over to the Flick Chat application and let us know why. What's Flick, you ask? It's a group chat application that anybody can use easily that has a smartphone. All you got to do is go over to your favorite app store, the Google Play Store or the Apple Store, download Flick Chat, and then within moments, you'll be part of Detroit Sports' newest headquarters. All you got to do is when you download the app is find the Detroit Sports Group by hitting that little plus button and entering all lowercase DSP. That's DSP, and then you're in, just like that, real quick, within moments. Within moments of downloading the app, you'll be part of a great sports forum where you can create your own topics. You can debate wrestling. You can debate the Lions, Tigers, Red Wings, Pistons, anything at all. You're in charge of your own forum, and it's a great, fun way to interact with all the Detroit sports hosts. It's a great way to, even if you're a fan of podcasts, you can find and listen to all our shows right there directly via Flick. Great group chat application. It's a fun spot to go. Detroit Sports' newest headquarters, Flick Chat. All right, cuz, we got to finish the podcast. 2 teams. Listen, when it was announced that Michigan was playing Alabama in the Citrus Bowl, I was like, oh, baby, it's going to be a fun game. I'm definitely paying attention to that. And then it was announced that Michigan State's playing in some Peon Bowl in New York. I'm not watching that. I think it's Wake Forest. I don't even know who they're playing. I think they're playing a team that scores a lot from what I hear. But unfortunately, Michigan State at 6-6 is accepting a really light bowl, and it's kind of coming to a screeching halt. I think everybody that's affiliated and supporting the Michigan State Spartans is just like, can this season just be over? Can you just start firing the staff? The season ended. It's been like 1,000 hours and nobody got fired yet. D'Antonio stands up there and is like, I'm going to make that decision at the end of the year. And then you got people supporting him like Narduzzi, who's in town for the Quick Lane Bowl. He's like, don't sleep on Mark D'Antonio. He's going to rise again. And everyone's like, can you at least start by firing his staff? Can we get a new offense in here? Yeah, then he can start rising. That's all everyone wants to hear is Mark D'Antonio has fired his entire offensive staff. And then we can all start to believe again. But until he does that, I don't want to see this. I don't want no young cats coached by these guys. They're just going to taint everybody. You know, the Workey season was terrible. The whole Spartan season this year was an absolute unmitigated disaster, which sucked because we all told you it was going to be a disaster when you don't change anybody. There was no indication that this was going to be a successful year. So that's what it was. You're 6-6, and you still don't send a message to your fan base that, hey, we're serious. The game against Maryland was a disgrace. Half the fans didn't show up. It was an utter disaster for Michigan State this season, and Mark D'Antonio still towing the company line. And unfortunately, it's a situation in which he's being so stubborn that he's turned off half of the fans. And I'm one of them. I'm like, dude, 6-6 and you don't make the move right away. You wasted Brian Lewerke. He didn't end up being anything. A lot of people are transferring, and everything surrounding the Michigan State football program is a disaster. You look at Michigan, and everything that we said was going to happen was going to happen. It was a 3-loss team. You know, we told you 8-9 wins. Don't expect much, and definitely expect to get your ass kicked by Ohio State. That's what we told you in August.
That's what you told them. I told them that they were going to be in the college football playoff. I was wrong.
What?
I'm an asshole.
You did not say that. I'd erase that then. College football playoff, huh? You definitely been into oh my God.
To start the season, I was eating the maize and blue cornbread and Kool-Aid, and I'm sorry, guys. I was wrong.
Have you recovered yet from the Ohio State thumping?
No.
Not over yet?
No, my asshole still hurts. I do want to talk about what Alabama's going to do to Michigan, though. Like, I think this is great because have there ever been two more hyped college coaches than Nick Saban and Jim Harbaugh? This is going to be great. And Michigan fans, the reason you brought Harbaugh in was so he could challenge a guy like Nick Saban. You couldn't get past Urban Meyer, but yet you're somehow going to challenge Nick Saban. So this is going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see this. This is going to be a jail sexing that you've never seen. The only way this doesn't pan out the way I think it's going to play out inside my head is if Alabama has just checked out because they're like, cool, we're not playing for anything. We're good. Because in Alabama, if you're not playing for a national championship, then what the hell are you doing here? What the hell are you doing here? The great thing is next year, if you have any money, right now, I'm going to give you a little betting tip, all right? And we just gave you a little betting site on the podcast. Take your monies, right? Load them all up, squirrel them up in a bag, and run to your local betting affiliate and put everything you own, put your child's life savings account on Alabama winning a national championship next season. Nick Saban loves this. This team, I think they'll show up. I do think they will show up for the Citrus Bowl, but he loves the fact that they're playing for absolutely zero. They're playing for essentially a bowl full of oranges. He loves this because next year he gets to ride these guys into the absolute dirt before the season starts, and he gets to put the sourest taste of vinegar in all of their mouths, and he will get the absolute best out of this team next year, and they're going to win a national championship. I guarantee it. I'm calling it right now on December 12th, 2019. Calling it right now. Michigan, I have zero. I really don't have the interest in watching this game except for what Jim Harbaugh does against Nick Saban. That is the one thing that is the one thing. That's the one reason I will tune in to watch this. That is really it, because I don't think the talent matches up. I don't even think it's close. Like, you have a guy who runs a program like it's an NFL stalwart, and then you've got a guy who made it to the steps of winning a Super Bowl. Yet he can't put it together, and he can't figure it out and get out of his own way.
Doesn't that concern you at all, though, that players on both sides, Michigan and Alabama, just might sit out? I mean, Alabama has near like 15 guys that could declare for the NFL draft, and they just might be like, oh, what's the, everyone's kind of declared that if you're not part of the playoff, then the bowl games are meaningless.
It doesn't scare me because I think there's enough depth on Alabama's. I think Alabama's second best guy or third best guy is probably better than Michigan's starting whoever. You know what I'm saying? So no, I have zero concerns about that. As far as Michigan State goes, the Pinstripe Bowl, like for real. Look, if there was a bowl game that Michigan State was going to limp their way into, it really should have been the Motor City Bowl.
They should have, right?
They should be at Ford Field. This would be a perfect way for D'Antonio to go out. You go out and you beat up on a MAC school. On top of that, you're essentially at home with the fan base that is going to support you and root for you. It would have been the best case scenario. Go to the Motor City Bowl and win that and call it a day.
Here's unfortunately the problem. It's viewed by the Spartans as a huge disrespect and slap in the face. They would never accept the bowl bid there because it really indicates a bad year. It's kind of like
you played like shit all year.
A 6-win team should go there, right?
Yeah, and honestly,
how do you not get them?
We've talked about this since the beginning of the season. Like, we didn't understand how you could just move deck chairs around and save the Titanic, right? Like, this ship has been sinking for, I don't know, the last 24 months. Yet Mark D'Antonio was like, cool, we've got the guys playing the violins. Let's just move the deck chairs around, and maybe we'll throw the life preservers overboard, and it's going to help save the boat. Like, no, man. Like, we knew this wasn't going to work. Your quarterback is trash. That defense looked like it started good, but it got tripped up. Your offensive play calls were essentially the same thing that you've been running for the last 6 years.
Disaster.
And nothing has gotten better. Nobody has gotten better. You've seen zero progress from anybody. It has been a complete and unmitigated disaster for Michigan State. Playing at Ford Field in the Motor City Bowl would have been fantastic because you'd have been down there. Chances are you'd have been covering it with Vito, I might have got tickets and went down there. I'm not even a Michigan State fan, but you know what? I will root for the Big Ten to beat up on a shitty MAC school just because. We might have even had Putty come in from Florida. And you know Putty hates the Spartans. And Putty
wear Michigan gear.
Yes, he would have worn Michigan gear, and he'd been sitting at Ford Field, and he had been rooting on for D'Antonio because he respects him as a coach.
Yeah, it's unmitigated disaster. And then you got, in the Quick Lane press conference, you got Pat Narduzzi going, don't sleep on Mark D'Antonio. He's going to bring it back. Yeah, it's like, okay, guy.
Hey, there's a question for you. Because do you remember a few years ago, Pat Narduzzi was the hot name that all Michigan State fans wanted to be the heir apparent to Mark D'Antonio.
It's tough to coach. Pitt, 7-5.
Do you think he comes back to Michigan State? Would you? Let me ask you this, because you're a diehard Michigan State fan. Would you want him back?
Yeah,
as
obviously.
Michigan State's head coach.
I think, well, based on what he's done at Pitt, it doesn't seem like he has the chops yet. It doesn't seem like he's, doing what he's got to do. It's just, unfortunately, what Michigan State fans kind of want. We want to take that next step. I mean, we don't want to go backwards. Mm-hmm. We don't want to take 2-3 years. We want the next guy. So everybody wants Urban Meyer. We want the guy that's going to be the best guy. We want the guy over there at Minnesota, PJ Fleck.
You're not getting Urban Meyer. You might get PJ Fleck.
That'd be great. But he signed a long-term deal. His buyout would be nice and hefty.
But he signed a long-term deal with Western before he rolled over to Minnesota. So
exactly.
Whatever.
So we want the next guy that's going to come in here and actually get where we need to go. But at the end of the day, I think Michigan State has basically come back to become a basketball school again. And they're not even doing well there as well. Unfortunately, Cassius Winston had some personal problems. And that family tragedy was unfortunate. Yeah, it kind of derailed now what's going on at Michigan State. They've kind of grinded a little bit. And but they'll get better, like you've said. They play Duke. They get their ass handed to them. They get coached up. And they eventually, potentially end up in the Final Four. So the surprise team is Juwan Howard. We're going to peek into them for sure because he comes in and he's already getting love from the NBA, potential head coach of the Knicks already after 5 games?
Doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
Well, he's got cachet because he's been a long-time NBA assistant.
Have you heard about John Beilein and the Cavs?
Yeah.
And it sounds like the players have tuned him out and are not buying in.
It's a little bit, I think in a story like that, probably the source was probably one of those players that's a little disgruntled. Mm-hmm. But by and large, 4 or 5 of the players came out and said that's all whack and nobody in this locker room believes that. At the end of the day, losing makes people pissed off. And John Beilein's a great basketball coach. Everyone understands it. And he's just got to acclimate to the NBA game a little bit more where it's a little bit more professional. They don't want to hear kind of college words in terms of play calls. He understands how to coach basketball. Mm-hmm. It's just you got to kind of tailor it to these guys with their massive egos. They got probably, at Michigan, you got guys that have ego, but Beilein's was probably bigger and could keep it all in check. In the NBA, you got guys that just show up and be like, dude, my check is huge.
Yeah.
Bunch of Darius Slays is like, bro, I got my 15 and 10. What do you care? I'll show up and get to 5 other teams where a guy getting 15 and 10 makes $12 million a year.
Could you imagine coaching a guy like Carmelo Anthony?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I would hate my life.
It's a different world to coach these high-priced, high-ego guys. It's unbelievable because
I'd have went all Bob Knight and beat him with a chair and then probably stabbed him with a piece of the metal that came off the chair.
Exactly.
Here, die by the shrapnel.
Man, the world of Detroit sports, this last year, probably with the Tigers, Wings, who are not winning anything. They're in the midst of a 12-game losing streak, and they're playing all bad. Everything is just upside down. Everybody's rebuilding. Everybody's retooling, and it's an absolute unmitigated disaster in the world of Detroit sports. But you can always count on Doc and Jock to bring the noise, to make it uncomfortable, to make it fun, and that's what we do here. Adam's back. And
bro, we opened this podcast talking about professional wieners.
Exactly. So listen, at the end of the day, the Doc and Jock podcast showed up to cover the Lions, and we're asking Matt Patricia questions, and we're asking these guys what do you think of this and what do you think of that? And every time I show up in there, I'm like, this is great. This is the greatest gig on earth. How could you not walk in here with a smile? Everyone's just like, can this season freaking end? Because they've all been doing this 7, 8, 9 years. I'm like, I want to cover 18 more games. Where's my credential? I want to come back. I want to do this again. And it's a great opportunity. Thanks to you guys. You guys supported us. And that's why we've been doing this now over 330 episodes weekly, every single Thursday. Tune in, Doc and Jock. Thanks so much, cuz. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely, brother. Happy to be back.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.